Hello everyone. Thanks for stopping by my channel. This is ASMR Ghost Stories. So if you enjoy getting just a little bit scared by stories of the paranormal or just strange happenings, then welcome. You are in the right place. All of my stories are told either soft spoken or whispered, all for that lovely tingly effect and getting just a little scared at the same time. I don't think today's story is all that frightening, just interesting. So if you are a fan of these kind of stories, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I do upload on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you are liking these stories, hit the like button. It really does help me out to know that you are enjoying all of these creepy videos. So, let's go ahead and dive in. Richard III, murderous uncle, or victim of Tudor propaganda. In 1674, workmen demolishing a staircase in the Tower of London's White Tower discovered a wooden chest buried 10 feet deep. It contained the skeletons of 2 children, the taller one lying on its back and the other lying across it face down. King Charles II ordered an investigation, and the official examiners concluded that the skeletons were the remains of 12-year-old Edward V and his 10-year-old brother Richard, Duke of York. The 2 princes who had disappeared in suspicious circumstances at the Tower of London in July 1483. King Charles had the remains interred in Westminster Abbey in a marble tomb designed by Christopher Wren. In 1933, a pathologist and a dental surgeon were given permission to examine the alleged remains of the princess, and the bones were exhumed. Pathologist William Wright and dental surgeon George Northcroft were able to determine that the skeletons were of 2 children aged 10 and 12. The investigators could not tell what sex the children were, as they had died before reaching puberty, and the bones were hard to date. But they seemed to belong to a time period near to the 15th century. The disappearance of the princes in the tower had been the subject of much debate for hundreds of years. The consensus is that the princes were murdered by their uncle, Richard III, popularly portrayed, thanks to the Shakespeare and Sir Thomas More, as a sadistic, hunchbacked schemer with a twisted mind. Upon the death of Edward IV in 1483, his brother Richard was appointed protector of the realm and guardian of Edward's sons. The boy king Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York. As soon as the preparations for Edward's coronation were underway in London, Richard rode to Stony Stratford near Northampton and escorted Edward to the Tower of London. Edward's younger brother Richard was taken by his mother, Queen Elizabeth Woodville, to Westminster Abbey for sanctuary. But the Queen was later persuaded to let her son join his brother in the Tower. In June of that year, cleric Ralph Shaw proclaimed that the princes were bastards because Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville had been invalid. And so, in the following month, Richard of Gloucester had himself proclaimed as king and was crowned on July the 6th. Meanwhile, the princes were still in the Tower. Many were angered at Richard's speedy path to the throne, and most people doubted that the princes were illegitimate. The Duke of Buckingham, who wanted Henry Tudor to be king, led a revolt against Richard, but the rebellion was unsuccessful, and the Duke was beheaded. Around the time of the failed insurgency, England was rife with rumors about the princes in the Tower. It was said that they had been murdered by the usurper king. 30 years after the sinister disappearances of the princes, Sir Thomas More, in his biography of Richard III, claimed that shortly after his coronation, the king sent a messenger to the keeper of the Tower, ordering him to kill the princes. But the keeper, Sir Robert Brackenbury, refused. The king then ordered his protege, Sir James Tyrrell, to do the despicable deed. And after persuading Brackenbury to hand over the keys to the rooms where the princes were staying, Tyrrell put his murder plan into action. He instructed his burly housekeeper, John Dighton, and Miles Forrest, who had been minding the princes, to kill the boys as they slept. Dighton and Forrest came into the chamber at midnight and quickly wrapped the princes up in their bedclothes. Dighton pressed their feather bed on them and lay on it until all the violent wriggling and kicking had ceased. According to More, Tyrrell then instructed the murderers to bury the suffocated princes at the foot of the stairs in the tower under a heap of stones. But how true is Moore's account? He based his story on an alleged confession to the crime made by Tyrrell before his execution in 1502. Moore was an upholder of the Tudor state, and as such was probably using his biography of Richard III to defame him. It was Moore who claimed that Richard III was crooked-backed and ill-featured, despite the fact that no contemporary portrait of Richard III exists which shows him as ugly or deformed in any way. Today, historians are still uncertain about the actual fate of the princes. Some believe they were not murdered at all, but smuggled out of the tower, probably to spend the rest of their lives in obscurity under assumed names. For years, a rumor has persisted that one of the fully grown princes, Richard of York, is actually depicted as an adult in a Hans Holbein painting of Sir Thomas More and his family. But if the princes were murdered, is Richard III the only suspect? Someone else who had a strong motive for the double murder was Henry Tudor, who defeated Richard at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485 and became Henry VII. Being the great-grandson of Edward III's illegitimate son, Henry was excluded from the succession. His claim to the throne was based only upon the right of conquest. And so to strengthen his claim, he married Elizabeth of York, sister of the princesses in the Tower. He then had his wife declared illegitimate, which meant that her brothers in the Tower were the same. A state of affairs which meant that Henry would have to dispose of the princes if he was to become king. Furthermore, Henry did not claim that Richard III had murdered his nephews until almost a year after Richard's death. When Richard III gained the throne, Henry accused him of tyranny and cruelty, but we'll never know why he didn't accuse Richard of murder at that time. And there you have it. A little history, a little intrigue. What do you think? Any history buffs out there? So, thank you guys for watching, and hit that subscribe button. And I do upload on Mondays and Thursdays. If you have any ideas or stories that you would like featured on the channel, you can either comment below or send me an email. Until then, stay just a little scared. Bye.